pilot testing something to try something new is the only way to make change. You've got to be willing to make some change. If we just let time pass without making any changes, we will become irrelevant. To stay relevant, we've got to continue to learn. You've got to want to learn. You've got to enjoy the process of learning, because learning is where we grow. What's relevant mean to you? Who do you want to be relevant to? If you want to have more impact, you've got to learn to embrace and empower the right people. So well done.
You know, when he does the 5 freedoms and put the pyramid up, okay, there's a visual misrepresentation of what that looks like. It looks more like this. You come in and you think that financial is such a big part of it, but it's just a foundation. But ask them, ask Greg and Jackie, this part of it is what it really looks like. You get the bottom taken care of and the rest of everything else opens up, and the beginning of all the future potentiality becomes open to you. And that's why we have to even just psychologically sort of work you through the process, because you have a tendency, we all do, to think by the identity that when that's gone, then what's left? And the answer is everything else. Everything else. Whatever you want it to be. Jamie Lee Curtis, we get AARP now, the magazine.
I did not sign up for it.
And there's an article on her in the last magazine. It's actually a good magazine. Thanks, babe. And
it's free.
yeah, when you get old. And but anyway, it was about what she did during COVID and what the year was like. And she was bursting with ideas where she was waking up with her brain running a mile a minute at 4 a.m. in the morning for the last 18 months to 2 years of her life, doing all of these new things at 62. You know, it's the beginning of everything else. And it's the freedom to empty that brain space of all of the nagging, harebrainy, damaging things that you have to think about all of the time, or the things that you worry about that wake you up in the middle of the night. I know what it's like. I used to wake up in the middle of the night with the sweats. I mean, I used to go into night terrors when I was single and I was alone, and I thought, oh, God, what happens if I don't make my sales numbers? What's going to happen in my future? What happens if I can't keep up with the stress of this career anymore? We've all been there. And when you eliminate those things from your freedom to think, then the creativity to picture everything else and become everything else and try everything else and sample and experiment and do all of that cool stuff is all out in front of you. It doesn't look like this. It looks like that. For real.
So the last thing I want to touch on is relevance. You know, what is relevance? It's being connected to the meaning, the conversation at hand. How do we become irrelevant? Well, if we just let time pass without making any changes, we will become irrelevant. Your business, your company, your practice will become irrelevant. Things are happening so fast. With Freedom Founders, I think it was born out of me wanting to still remain relevant in some way. Had my practice all those years. Yes, I was the entrepreneurial dentist. I was also entrepreneurial in real estate, but trying to figure out, well, what's my real relevance now? Freedom Founders is born. My point is, with Freedom Founders, it's not a thing, but it's a lab. It's an experiment. This is still an experiment. I'm never done. We're always changing, evolving, testing, getting feedback from all of you, our trusted advisors. How can we better serve you to serve our members better? Our members, how can we serve you better? Tim Rayborn, you said last night, you said, I came in 2 years ago, it's completely different. Now, you didn't mean it was bad. You just said it's always changing. Yes, it is. It's always changing. We're always on a new frontier here. We'll do some things and maybe they don't work. Maybe we hit a foul ball. Maybe we even strike out on something. Is that bad? Is that bad?
Nope.
No. I mean, pilot testing something to try something new is the only way to make change. You've got to be willing to make some change. To make some change is how you stay relevant. If you are not internally, or your company or your business is not changing as fast as what's changing externally around us in the world, you'll become irrelevant. So we've got to be changing. We've got to be on a new frontier. Whether you're still in business or you're exploring what your next is, you want to be relevant. What's relevant mean to you? Who do you want to be relevant to? Would be some questions to ask. To stay relevant, we've got to continue to learn. You've got to want to learn. You've got to enjoy the process of learning, because learning is where we grow. I mean, we talk about a lot of books. I read a lot of books. Jim Rocker, I think he and Cinda had to leave this morning, but Jim Rocker would just like soak up every book that we put out, and he and I know many of you do the same thing. You read, you learn, you participate with other groups. If you stop learning, you will stagnate. So get feedback from your stakeholders in life. Your stakeholders. I mean, your family would be a good place to start. Are they not stakeholders? Yeah, very important stakeholders. Your team, your staff, your culture, your vendors, your clients, patients. You need feedback. You need feedback. What can you change? What can you iterate? How can you be different in solving the problems that you want to solve for the people you want to solve? How can you be different doing that? See, that's how you stay relevant. Asking the questions, getting the feedback. We do that with all of you. We always want your feedback. We take your suggestions, do we not? And mold them and make changes. And we test drive. Let's test drive this, okay? If it doesn't work, we'll change it. If it works partially, great. We'll grab that and we'll add something else. That's what you've got to be doing at all times. Before changing anything, you're going to have to take some things out of that time suitcase. You're going to have to stop doing some things. So before you take on something new, because we all have ideas, right? You got to figure out, what are you going to stop doing? Very important to think about, what am I going to stop doing if I want to add something? Because if you try to do too many things, you take on too much, the dilution factor is going to enter in, and you're not going to have a chance to stay focused on what that particular goal is. Creating capabilities through other people. This group would not exist. I could not do what I do. I could not be relevant in the way I want to be relevant without the people in this community. The collaboration that I started with Glenn Stromberg 11 years ago, starting in a very small, little tiny room, when we had 14 or 15 people, and we just started this little idea of, how could we have impact for people who want to learn how to invest in alternatives? Well, how can I do that if I try to do it by myself? Not going to work. I'm going to hit a wall, hit a ceiling. So I've got to find collaborators. How can I create the synergy to make this happen? And then it's just go from there. If you want to have more impact, you've got to learn to embrace and empower the right people. Now, the right people is a whole nother skill and art that can be learned. And again, you've got a test drive. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to fall on your face a few times, but that's the way to grow, to take the challenge, take the risk to have some things go wrong, to make bigger things go right. I think the last thing I will say about altering your current run rate is look at the things that you do on a regular basis, daily, weekly, whatever it might be. What are those activities give you energy, and what activities take away, suck your energy? Now, it's never going to be perfect. There are always things we have to do that a little bit more of a grind, but as you start making that list of what things are the grind, but what gives you energy, and you start focusing on what are the grind, can I allow somebody else to do those things, that it's not a grind for them. Because just because it's a grind for me, there's people that are really good at doing what is hard for me. Maybe I can do it, but it's kind of like the things we procrastinate. The things you procrastinate, why? Why are you procrastinating? Because it's not something you love. So who else should be doing that thing that's probably really good at doing that just haven't thought about giving that up? Well, because it's risky. It's risky. So then we're back to the risk factor. Well, if I don't take the risk, then I never get a chance to give that up. But finding your zone of energy, your genius zone, your unique ability, as Dan Sullivan would say, what is that? If you can start focusing more on your unique abilities, the things you love, and collaborating with the people who will add to your zones of energy that are less than, or the areas that you're not good at, that's how you get to make a difference. That's how you get to get up every morning and you don't look at the schedule and go, oh my gosh, I have to. No, I get up every morning and say, I'm allowed to, I'm blessed to, I'm privileged to work with and have conversations with and think about how I can be involved and more relevant to the people I want to be relevant with. Is that helpful? Babe, you want to put a bow on that?
That includes me.
Very good. I think that's good enough. All right.
All right, that wraps up our 2-week continuous podcast segment with my wife, Candace, presenting at a recent Freedom Founders members meeting. Hope you enjoyed both segments. I'd love to get some feedback from you on what your takeaways were, what you learned, what may be holding you back in your life from living that bigger life, that bigger vision that you have. Until then, remember, stay focused on your freedom, and I'll see you on next week's podcast.